All right. And we are kind of live, pre-recorded. All right, sir, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Stefano Soro. I am a 28-year-old entrepreneur slash web developer slash uh, political advocate slash what I call ideast, someone who just loves ideas and wants to make the world a better place by um, finding ways to make people's lives easier through new ideas, new
Awesome.
technologies. Yeah.
I love that. Sweet man. So you can give us just a brief overview of your projects that we're working on, and then we'll circle back and talk about the main thing that you're working on. So what do you have on your plate right now?
It is a full plate at the moment, but um, the three main projects that I'm working on right now is an AI health and wellness based app. It's part of a holding company that I'm still in the process of registering. It's going to be all health based. It's going to have different apps, different programs within it. But the main app is called Best. I just started working on the build. It's been a long time in the making, about 2 years now. But the biggest part of it is to give people a healthy non-diet. I want to be the app that doesn't focus on trends or diet trends, and I want to promote veganism. That's the big thing. So that app is my main focus, and then I have a tech incubator that I've been working on for the past 6 years, but I didn't really have a clear idea of what it was going to be until recently, and so now I'm just trying to build that up. But definitely can't work on that by myself. That's going to take a lot of people, a lot of brainstorming to really bring it to life.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in this day and age where it's hard to start companies and keep them running. And then my third project, as crazy as it sounds, is a political party that I've been working on for the past 2 years now.
That's
I would call it a moderate party.
A moderate party. Okay. That sounds like something I can get into for sure. All right. It sounds like we are going to have an interesting podcast today. Sweet. So let's start with your main project here, the health and wellness app. You said it was called Best?
Yeah.
Awesome. And so is it going to be like a mixture of like how to live your life? Is it purely based around your diet and your intake and promoting? I know you said you're promoting veganism. Is it just going to be around like your consumption of food?
Well, the idea started because I come from a mother who's a nutritionist, and my fiance, she's a vegan, and she kind of got me into looking into it and seeing the health benefits of it. But I wanted to create something that would give someone everything they need to be healthy without having to do much work. So the original idea was health plans. And I've created about 10 health plans that give you different options. So you answer about 20 questions, and then it creates, using AI, a health plan for you. But I also want to do that for working out, even though working out is about 15 to 20% of your health journey. I think it's still important. I think there's a lot of apps that don't do it right, that don't actually enable you to get to the weight goal that you want to be at. So I think those two are very connected. Through health plans, I think it can give you everything you need, from the amount of calories to the amount of vitamins to how much you should eat, to giving you options whether you want to eat American food or Italian or Chinese or Indian. I want to give people more options within what's out there. And the biggest reason for this app is I think there's so many apps out there that do one thing, and oftentimes people tend to use 4 or 5 different apps to get everything they need, from their diet to working out to the metrics of figuring out their body mass index to their calorie count, things like that. And then also I want to go into other categories that are health related, such as beauty, which I think is still important. Everything from skincare to hair care, to even makeup, things like that. And then there's financial stability, which I think is part of living a healthy life. And then environmental consciousness, which doesn't just tie into veganism, but ties in everything that we need for all of us in order to live a healthy, sustainable life, and our children and our children's children to live a healthy life. I think it's all
Right.
connected.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just say I think it's all connected. It's a big process. I think the first version of the app is probably just going to include health and wellness first, and then the app will grow and into the other categories, the other 3 categories.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. A lot of people, almost doesn't matter what year you're in, and I feel like people are always looking for some sort of guidance with, especially their intake, and especially living in the U.S. There's a lot of food options that are great, and people indulge, and the marketing advertising out there is very much, based on you indulging and treating yourself and doing all that kind of things, all those kinds of things. And it's great. Those things are all wonderful and good, but just like anything else in life, it's all about moderation, right? So I think that's a great place to start. Yeah. And then even with the fitness portion too, like I might even help you with that. I think I have some people who may be able to contribute and work with you as far as putting plans together. I actually know a couple people who do that already, so maybe I can plug you in, and we'll see how it goes. That sounds super awesome. Yeah, a lot of it's interesting when I think about humanity in general, because there's certain things where it's like, I think like medicine and dieting, exercise, and even how you treat other people. It's like, we've been around for how long?
Yeah.
It's like, why do we still have to like learn this? Like, why aren't these just like basic fundamental truths and like piece of information that we learn like as children and growing up? So by the time we graduate and get to university and college and whatnot, then we just know these things. This is how you conduct a proper conversation. This is how you do your taxes and take care of your home, and this is how you eat, and this is how you exercise, without any bias, right? Yeah. It's like even the American like food pyramid when I was a kid has shifted a lot and has been exposed to, oh well, it's actually backed by companies that want you to eat certain foods, and it's like, man, like that's rough. And remember the whole milk campaign, got milk, like that's wild. Like, we don't really need that. Milk is good. I love milk. But they sold vitamin D or vitamin, whatever vitamins you get from drinking milk. It's like, it's so good for you. And really at the end of the day, you don't really get that much out of milk. They just wanted to justify their production, and really it's an unwillingness to adapt to what people need. And so they try and convince you that this is what you want.
Exactly.
So yeah, I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's great. I think there needs to be more people and more movements that are people centric and really for the greater good. And I think that's what you're kind of getting with too with that political party, is going more for the people, not so much the ones that up top who have already been benefiting from being in power.
Exactly.
But we'll get to that one in a little bit. So veganism, I have some vegan friends. I know a little bit about veganism. Are you practicing yourself right now? And if so, has it been a while?
And I am. It's not easy. So friends that try, and even friends that believe they can't, I understand. It's not easy. Years ago, I was vegetarian only. and I ended up going back to eating meat just because of my budget. But that's part of why I want to work on this app, is because it's not it's become popular, but it's not mainstream yet, and people don't think it's a viable option. They think it's kind of if you have money, if you have the time to make the food, then you can be vegan. It's like a luxury almost. But in actuality, it's anyone can be vegan. Anyone can eat cheap vegan food, make cheap vegan food, if they're really willing to. So yeah, it's hasn't been easy sticking to being vegan, but doing it for more than just the health benefits is really the way to stick to doing it. Because when I started, I went back. I flopped a few times because I wasn't doing it for the ethical reasons of what happens in the meat and dairy industry, what cows go through, not just for their meat but for their dairy. It's can be pretty brutal to see what actually goes behind those doors.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, very personally, I love good steak. I love bacon. But when you see how it's like almost like they hate their jobs, the people that like are like having to process and take care of the animals. It's like yes, they're being made for consumption, but they're still living things in the meantime. And I fully believe that whatever energy you put out is gonna, come right back. But until it comes back, it's gonna be put out in the universe, and bad energy is gonna flow through other things as well. And so, yeah, it's just so unnecessary the way they go like just toss the animals around or just be so aggressive and move them when most of the time the animals are just kind of hanging out and like standing still and just doing their thing, just like I'm just here.
Yeah.
And then they either just being like, they get thrown over here. The way they just put them on the machines sometimes are just like, what the heck? I mean, I know you're trying to be productive, but it just seems like you don't have any like mindfulness of these creatures.
No. They're very intelligent,
and it seems, yeah. I mean, and it seems like, I mean, maybe it's just my positive outlook, but it does seem to me that there are more farmers that are going out of their way to have like a safer environment. I mean, it seems silly because I'm like, why don't you just be a decent human being in the first place?
Right.
But it seems like they're making more of an effort to establish, oh, hey, these animals are under, better conditions, and they're not being tossed around and mistreated or shot up with whatever chemicals. And so yeah, you kind of see the difference if you compare it, especially the American lifestyle and the American body to those of other nations. And a lot of it has to do with our food, because I've seen people who don't really work out that much, but they can eat their way to health. But you can definitely eat your way to being unhealthy as well. And then that's when you see changes in your skin, your energy, your hair, everything gets affected. It's not just like, oh, am I shredded? Do I have these 6-pack abs? It's not necessarily about that. It's about feeling good and your organs being able to work. So as far as veganism, what have you noticed for yourself and hope to bring to others that most other diets don't provide?
Well, for me personally, and I think a lot of people can relate. There's a healthy way to eat vegan, and then there's an unhealthy way. And I'll admit to myself, over the past.
So what is the unhealthy way to eat vegan? Because to me, being a vegan is just you're just automatically healthy. I understand sometimes there can be like a nutrient deficiency, but go ahead and explain.
Well, for me, I'll admit I've eaten a lot of ramen for the past few months. There's a
Ramen is very good.
Nissan ramen is vegan, as long as you don't use the powder. So
okay,
with my schedule, I've been eating a lot of that just to save time, and it's starting to catch up. There's a lot of good vegan places, restaurants to eat, from pizza to pasta to Mexican food. That's really good, but if you overeat, if you don't watch your calorie count, you're definitely gonna start to gain weight. And then the things you buy at the store, the little section that they have at the grocery store, the vegan meat, the vegan cheese, and even desserts, vegan desserts. If
They
that's all you're
find a
eating,
way.
yeah, I mean, it's
Just
delicious food.
remember this thing. We made it for you, just for you, so you can still have it.
Exactly. No, it tastes really good. And over the past decade, companies have really tried to make fake meat taste like meat and fake cheese taste like cheese.
Mhm.
Um, Beyond Meats, Impossible Foods, they've really stepped it up. Huge companies now. And it tastes, some people think it tastes even better than meat. Cheese, they're still working on it. It's hard to get it to taste like cheese, but it still tastes good, I think. But yeah, so and if you want it like that, all power to you. Part of this app is to give people that option to eat those kind of foods, um, or to eat more of what they call like a raw vegan diet, where you're just eating plants and vegetables and fruits, without using any additives like oils or um, any additives that make it taste better, but really aren't always going to help you out. So, um,
Right, so that way you don't alter the quality of the actual food itself in
yeah.
its raw form, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, just to be straight salads. I can do the fruit part. Fruit's always fun.
Yeah.
But not all those vegetables are fun in the raw for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it seems to me like the name of the game are like the two parts really. One, calorie deficit if you're trying to hit weight loss. That's the common denominator across all of these diets, whether you're doing carnivore or vegan or keto, whatever it is. That seems to be the thing, because they're cutting out typically the things that added a lot of calories to their diet.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that seems to be proven even more and more is just having a plant-based diet, whether you're going with or without meat. It seems that as long as you're getting those plants in, and I think the recommendation, right, is always have a colorful plate and try and get all the colors
Mhm.
in as much as you can. You being son of a nutritionist, I'm sure you can add some information or confirm or deny anything I just said.
No, exactly. And when it comes to your nutrition, the big argument that people pose to vegans is, oh, you're not getting enough B12, or you're not getting enough calcium, you're not getting enough zinc or magnesium. But, and that's what I really want to do with this app, is to give you that option to eat exactly what you need to have your full intake of all your vitamins, of all your nutrients, um, which for a lot of vegans isn't easy. A lot of people end up going back because they feel like they are not getting enough protein even. But I'm here to say it's all possible, and um, you can definitely get everything you need from a vegan lifestyle. So, and then part of plant-based is yeah, like you said, the fruits and vegetables, and trying to stick to more of a clean diet. And then what veganism brings is kind of like the food that you eat, the clothes that you wear, the products that you use, and then how environmentally conscious you are when it comes to trying to live a sustainable life, environmentally sustainable life. So all three kind of are part of veganism, and it's definitely not easy to incorporate all three, but I think it's a process, and that's what I want to bring to through this app, is to make it mainstream and make everything accessible, where there's no reason not to um, live your best life through veganism. And then for some plans, I want to allow people to slowly transition to veganism, where I don't want people just to give up who are carnivores and are skeptical to begin with. I want to give them the option to slowly incorporate a vegan meals into their diet.
Yeah,
Maybe once a week.
it's tough going cold turkey with anything. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I've tried now, like, basically doing what you just said, and have incorporated getting more vegetables in my diet, and now I'm at the point where I'm doing mostly vegetables in my diet or for the meals that I'm having, and um, I wouldn't. I'm not sure if I'll ever
Okay.
go completely, or maybe I'll do periods where I do full like weeks or however long without meat. Just because I do love meat, I the preference. Again, it's if you can get the un unadulterated meats that where those animals aren't hurt, that's ideal. But one thing that got me interested, I always forget, and I'm always surprised every
Yeah.
time I hear it, is clothing. Now, first thing comes to mind is like sheep and getting the wool off. But what are you? You doesn't seem like you're just wearing rubber right now. So can you talk a little bit about how vegan clothing, as far as like ethics and
Yeah.
whatnot? Because this is not something that I don't think anyone really thinks about. I think when you say veganism, it automatically ties into what you're eating. You're on a diet. You're trying to be healthy, sort of deal.
hmm Well, a big thing is leather. Um,
Oh yes, there we go. I don't wear a
and
lot of leather.
yeah. Yeah, nowadays a lot of companies have switched to fake leather, but
Mm-hmm.
to a vegan, like someone who's researched it and knows enough, they know that in some cases vegan leather is worse for the environment making it than actual leather is. So it's kind of find that line between, oh, okay, I'm not going to wear leather at all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of am I going to wear cotton? Um, because that takes a toll. That takes a lot of water to make the t-shirts, the cotton t-shirts that we wear. So there's that aspect, but I think even a bigger one is the skincare products that we use, the hair care products. A lot of it has animal byproducts in it.
Mm.
Nowadays, companies are really trying to push. They have the labels that it's cruelty free, vegan, paraben free. When it comes to hair products, things like that. So yeah, I try to look for those kind of products when I'm out shopping. Um, my fiance, she's better at that. She knows all about that and is kind of helping through that. But yeah, that's partly what I want to include within the health plans is giving you that option to um, have your lotions, to have your face products, hair
Be like, hey,
products,
these are
completely vegan.
products that we
Yeah,
support and that are sustainable and follow this lifestyle.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, those are
exactly.
things that
Yeah,
just
give people the option.
doesn't cross my mind at all to think, oh, does my hair shampoo, hurt animals? It's like it's not something people really talk about. Same thing with the clothing, just like
Yeah,
it's not even relatively in my mind because I wouldn't really think of like, oh, are animals involved in this? Because I don't see any animals when I'm wearing it. So
right, right.
it's just not a thought. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
As far as clothing, what would be more, I mean, now not just cruelty free for animals, but sustainable
Mhm.
for the environment is it like hemp? Is hemp one of those things? Or is there something else?
Hemp is a good. It's not. It definitely doesn't use as much water as cotton does. There's kind of a rise in certain products like microfiber. Um, some other products. I've been researching it because one of the we don't have to go into it, but one of the other products I'm working on is a sustainable clothing company that creates streetwear t-shirts using sustainable products. But um, yeah, it's hard to wear that kind of clothing because it's more expensive. It
Hmm.
hasn't reached the mainstream enough. They haven't figured out how to sell it at a cheap price yet. Um,
Right.
but
It
yeah,
seems
there's
like
there's a
with everything
couple different
else,
products you can.
yeah, it seems like with everything else, it's just a matter of being the first one or waiting for the first ones to kind of do their thing, and eventually it gets a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier. Just like electric
Mhm.
cars, I think they're just going to be the norm eventually.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even like streaming was terrible back in the day. For those of you that don't remember life without Netflix, their original library online sucked. It was all about having them send you the DVDs. That was, if you know what a DVD is, it's this round disc that has information. It's kind of like a USB stick if you even use that anymore. But
Exactly.
yeah, so it'll get better with time, I'm sure. And I
Yeah,
think with people like you pushing that to just be a part of the way you live, like your lifestyle, your health, and your consciousness as well. And it becomes more popular, just like how the food has shifted. I think other things will shift as well and
exactly.
become a little bit more affordable, and eventually just a part of who we are. I admire like the Japanese. They do such a good job of being so community minded and environmentally friendly. And it's like, man, like how come so many others have, including ourselves, are so far behind? Like humans are not new, right? A lot of this stuff is not new too. So it's like, how come we are taking so long to change and make sure that like our planet is good, that our bodies are good, that our communities are good? It's just kind of, it's funny how like we have to relearn all the time. Like, oh yeah, this is good, this is bad, or maybe we shouldn't do that thing. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, it's been a learning process for us. And as far as people can remember, we've been meat eaters. We've drinking dairy. But I think if you go even farther back, you'll find that we didn't start to eat meats. Originally, we didn't have a carnivore diet. We
mm.
stuck to plants and vegetables and fruits. Yeah.
Oh, I imagine it was a lot safer too. I mean, besides the risk of, oh, will this one kill me? You know, the fruit isn't actively hunting you down, versus like even like a boar. And then you're trying to
Right.
compete with all these, predators from back in the day. Even now, um, yeah, I imagine meat eating must have started as a dare. It's like, hey, dude, yeah, you see that lion? You see that lion eat that little deer over there? Come on, dude, do it, try it out, do it. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And
Very well.
then
Yeah.
how did cooking come about? Did they just like someone tripped and fell and then accidentally threw either their meat in the fire after they made this a custom taste to raw meat? They're like, oh, this thing, what do you call it? Ah, it's bacon.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see how we like, and people try to justify like, oh, well, we've been doing this for so long. I'm like, so if you like dropped newborn babies for thousands of years, as soon as they came out the womb, like, are you gonna keep doing that because you've been doing it for so long and for thousands of years? This is just how we do things, you know.
Yeah.
um People have a hard time, not everyone's open to change and or change it all.
Yeah.
It's scary for some
Unfortunately.
reason because there's no familiarity and they don't know if they're gonna like it, but we're also not gonna know if we don't ever try, right?
Exactly. And like you said before earlier, when it comes to the meat and dairy industry, they've for years growing up, we've seen the videos, we've learned in school that it's good to eat meat, to consume dairy.
Mm,
And now that the dairy industry is starting to really lose money, milk has trying to make a comeback. I see on YouTube now the milk ads because there's so many dairy farms that have been closing across the country.
mm,
So and that's the thing. I know people have to make a living. As a dairy farmer, you
right.
do it mostly to make a living, but a lot of dairy farmers, a lot of um, farms have switched to other things like almond milk and um, uh, plenty of other things to
I've been on
money.
oat
That's
milk.
that's
Oat milk
become
is,
possible.
for me,
Oat milk's good.
oat milk is
Oat
dangerous.
milk's
The
really good.
thing,
It's healthy
just
too.
the one that I've been seeing the most though is just a little bit higher on the calorie count. So I have to like, I usually just put it in coffee and whatnot. But that, man, that's delicious. That's a game changer right there.
It's really good. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more options though. You have oat milk. Um, you have my nutrition blank here. There's about 4 or 5 different options at the grocery store now. Flax
Right.
milk, um, coconut milk, which is good. But
Ooh,
yeah,
yes,
each
coconut
of them
milk is good.
is yeah. Some of them, yeah, like you said, they have a higher calorie count, so you kind of have to watch it. But For me, this season, being the holidays, eggnog. I love eggnog. So I have to get the almond nog or the coconut milk eggnog.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I didn't even pay attention to that. Almond nog. That must be interesting. Yeah, eggnog. Eggnog's a weird
It
one for
tastes
me because
good.
it's like eggnog is either really really good or like the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life.
I
It
I
really
agree.
just
Yeah.
depends on who makes it, and so it's like I have to know and almost like see someone else drink it before. And like, okay, that one's all right. Because some of those store bought ones are it's a gamble. It's a
Yeah.
gamble.
Yeah. I remember you drink it, and your stomach starts hurting. Like, oh my god, what did I just drink?
I don't know. I might as well just like crack some raw eggs and throw some cinnamon on it. You know, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But sweet man, before we move on and talk
Yeah.
about where do be talk about anything else. One thing I noticed that I didn't see before in your pictures was your hair. Is your hair blue?
Yeah. It just dyed a few days ago.
Oh, look at that. That's
Yeah.
cool. It's
Thank
like
you.
a deep blue. Did you have like a specific inspiration or have you just is this your first time dyeing your hair?
It's the third time. My first time was fuchsia about 5 months ago, and then the second time was like a lavender. Um, yeah, my fiance, she thought it would be a good idea. Um, she's really good at dyeing hair, cutting hair, um, things like that. So she was able to do it for me. Yeah.
Ah, it's just quarantine things, huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's been messing around. That's cool, man. I've been thinking
Thank
about
you.
that. I like that's a cool
Yeah,
color.
it
Fuchsia
was
too.
a.
Fuchsia is bright.
Mhm. Yeah, it turned out better than I thought it would. I was skeptical about it, and I don't want to damage my hair. So there's definitely a way to
Mhm.
do it right, to not do it right. You can see the horror stories online of bleaching your hair wrong and then losing your hair. But yeah, I had to bleach it twice, and then she colored it. So I didn't think it
Nice.
looked good,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, because at first I didn't with the lighting I didn't notice, and I was like, oh wait, his hair is actually a different color, isn't it? Um, yeah, it's super cool.
thank
Yeah,
you.
it's I've seen this one guy, I forget his name, but he'll pop up on my feed every once in a while, and he'll like do like reaction videos to people dyeing their hair,
Oh
and
yeah,
then oh man, it's so good. She'll be like, oh my gosh, what is that?
right.
And
That
then
might be
also
Greg
see people nail
Mondo,
it.
I think.
I think so. I think that the
Yeah.
last name sounds familiar. Yeah, I love those videos because it's just so funny. Because some people would just destroy their hair and have to like that's it. Especially when you have long hair, it's like gotta start over.
Exactly. Yeah, that sucks. Correction, Brad Mondo. Sorry, but yeah,
Oh, Brad Mom, maybe that's it.
yeah,
Well, sorry, Mr. Mondo. We'll give you some support. We'll credit. We don't know who you are. You're the only one doing what you're doing.
yeah.
Um, but sweet man, do you have anything else to add as far as your health based app for now, or are we all just keeping our eyes out in the meantime?
Well, because I took about 2 months after moving back to Vegas to kind of work on some other projects that I thought I had to to go back to just for time purposes. But the release of the app has kind of been pushed back a little bit. I was looking towards April to release it,
Mhm.
but now it's looking more June, July. Um, and the people I'm working with, they're they're really great. They're kind of just waiting for me, so I'm just trying to find the time just to focus on that and push it
Mhm.
out. Work overtime just to get it out, hopefully by June. Even if July is okay, but I think now is the time to release an app like this because of how much veganism has grown, and I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
the competition is going to grow. So I think sooner than later, and like they say, like putting out an MVP, a minimal viable product, even if it's not the best looking product, even if it doesn't have all the functions and features that I really wanted to have initially, I think those first few plans is gonna be just enough to start with.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like we said, Netflix was crap when it first came out. At least the streaming part, you know, the streaming service was terrible, and now it's like a mainstay for everything. It's like you don't most people like a lot of people I know,
Hmm.
especially in that 20 to 40 range, like they don't even have cable anymore. You know, they have everything's all some sort of streaming service. I mean, for me, it's wrapped up into Netflix, and then I have the bundle with Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus, and that pretty much covers it all for me. Right, so I get to watch my sports live. I get to watch, you know, dramatic shows, whatever. I get to see Baby Yoda whenever he's on, um, and yeah, it's crazy. So I
Yeah.
think, you know, as long as you keep doing what you can to improve it, it sounds like you already have a bunch of things mapped out and planned. So if anything, it's just gonna be like a new add-on, like for a video game. It's like, oh look, they just released this thing and this thing, and now it's even better than this app that I fell in love with initially. And like you said, especially now before the competition gets out,
Yeah.
if you're first or at least very early on, your chances are going to be way better for your app to go mainstream and be the go-to for everyone. So let's move on to I know everything is all involved and kind of crosses over, but I know you said you're working on basically this incubator to create apps. And I imagine maybe these people might be helping you with your health-based app called Best. Got to get that plug in.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you want to go ahead and tell us about the second project that you have going on.
Yeah. So it kind of started about 6 years ago. I started working for a startup before I was a developer, before I knew anything about being an entrepreneur or what a startup was. Um, I was working on their social media platform, helping them with branding. But I started getting into how an app is built because we were trying to figure out who to pay and how much to pay to have someone build the app, and it was around $60,000 at the time. I thought about 3 weeks into working at the company, like why can't I build an app myself, save money, and release it? So I think the state that we're in right now with technology and startup companies is it's really hard to start an app on your own. Um, 99% of companies use venture capitalists, use angel investors to help them fund their company. Um, and we live in an age where we have tech giants like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. I want to change that and and create a company that is going to rival those companies. I think there's a lot of things that they could be doing better, and I think their business model could be better. So I want to create a company as large as they are to to give to give people a better work environment, to giving people a better product, because I think there's a lot of things that they're missing. So what I want to do is I want to get together with other developers, designers, marketers, product designers, managers, um, all people who love startups, and give them different options of apps to build, give them the idea, help them build a team, and then start from there, all without having to look for outside investors, which is a huge feat that if I can accomplish that, it's going to be
And that's going to
a game
be
changer.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of research. At times I've felt discouraged because there's very few companies, like I said, who've really done it without outside investors. What I'm talking about is like the equity that you put in
Mhm.
that they take away from the company. I'm I'm someone who wants to give people more profit. I think CEOs and upper management, they take too much money from the people that work for them just because it's their idea. Um, I think it's great to have an idea. It's great to want to see that idea through and have your own vision of it, and not want it to be distorted. But I think there's a way to give the people who actually work on the product daily, who maintain the app that we use, to give them more money. So I have about over this past 6 years, I've come up with about 120 ideas, app ideas,
Oh wow.
and I've narrowed it down to 25 um, ideas I think are that can be profitable, helpful, and something different, or a better version of what's already out there.
Mhm.
So starting from there. I have a few people I'm starting to work
Just
with.
25,
Yeah.
a humble number.
Yeah. And I'm kind of rank them, like what I think is gonna take off quicker, what's gonna be the most profitable. Um, I think right now it's just hard. A lot of people are looking for work still. The people I reached out to, um, they want me to reach back out to them because they're still looking for a job, or some people are just too busy working 10 hours a day at the startup they're working for. But yeah, it's definitely going to grow. I want to kind of set an example with my first app best, um, by crowdfunding it, by using a model that's, they call it the lean model, that of building the app and maintaining it for the cheapest price possible. In this day and age, advertising is become all important. It's everyone needs it, but it's still
Yeah.
a bit pricey. And when I first started researching, I wondered why people were asking investors for $500 million to start their app when I just couldn't understand it. When I thought it could be a lot cheaper, but a lot of it has to do with advertising, with getting your product out there, maintaining it. I think too, there's a lot of products that are good, especially like competitors in the health space that I want to get into. But their product is just not very good as far as being able to log in, saving your information, keeping your privacy, not crashing when you want to use it. Um, I think a lot of companies fail at bringing a quality product, and sometimes that's because they're rushing to release that product. They see other competitors trying to release a similar product, so they just release it, and they never really
Mm.
maintain it or fix the code within it to make it better. So I think that's
Mm.
important. So yeah, all of that combined, I think it's a huge task to create a quality product, to give people an actual viable product that's, as far as developers and designers and the people who work behind the scenes goes, to give them a place to work where they feel like they're really contributing and making their fair share of money. So
Mhm.
yeah. So
Are you familiar with Dan Price?
I've heard the name a while ago, but I haven't
So
really looked
he is
into
the
him.
CEO of Gravity Payments,
Oh yeah,
based out of
yeah.
Seattle. And so
Hmm.
I follow him on Twitter, and like honestly, it just lights up my day whenever I see him talk about being a CEO and how he took the pay cut so that all of his employees can make 70 grand a year. And then on top of that, he's like constantly calling out other CEOs and saying like, this is bullshit. You're being greedy. Jeff Bezos is like one of his favorites to expose. And it's crazy because he made so much money this year from people being at home and on their phones and, looking at stuff to buy because they're bored. And
Hmm.
I think it was something crazy. Like even if I mean I could probably pull some up right now, but basically he made so much money this year, it's like worth more than like pretty much everything else that his employees are making like combined. It was something insane like that. Um,
Yeah,
so I
it's
appreciate you like doing that because it is not easy, especially when someone or individuals hop on to a startup. I think that's a big deal. They're saying a lot, not just like, hey, I want a job, but they're saying, hey, I believe that I can contribute to this thing and make it grow into something loud and amazing. And I believe in you and your business and the service that you provide or the product that produce. And that's a lot. Like if people want to be part of my business at such an early age, or like the podcast, like I appreciate you coming on. For me, it's a big compliment because like, hey, I believe in this and I think this is a valuable thing. And so I imagine you have like that same sort of appreciation for the people wanting to help you and
yeah.
be part of your team. And I like that you're trying to reward them, even though it's a very difficult thing to do early on, as you're still trying to get it out there and have it be finished or to some degree, and just hope that people are willing to consume your product that you're building and all the services and apps that you'll be moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah, I hope so. I want to give people a reason to feel like they can um, keep up with the cost of living that we're going through, to do it all from home with a pandemic going on, um, to provide for their family. And I think um, a lot of CEOs and a lot of people up in upper management in those positions, they take advantage. They take too much. So yeah, it's a community to me. I want to build a community where people feel like they're more connected to each other, working
Mhm.
together. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's where you'll find the most success too, is that especially as your company grows and maybe you're not having as much face time with all of the individual people in there, is having that camaraderie between them, your employees, with each
Mhm.
other. Um, I think that's key because I've worked for other businesses, and if I'm pretty easygoing, so it's hard to upset me for me to upset other people. But when I've seen like other people quarrel and whatnot in the workplace, that typically leads to just poor production, right? Whether it's their actual work or the efficiency of their work. And then there's just a vibe, this aura of just unrest, because even if you're not involved in what's going on in the workplace drama, you still feel it, especially if you're aware. You're just always tense because you're worried about something happening or breaking
Mhm.
out, or you're like, oh, this person did that, did someone so and so notice, or and so it's it shouldn't be like a high school drama. um I mean, when you're, whether it's a nonprofit or a tech company, or even if you're in an investment firm, it's like you should be playing for the team, right? And
Exactly.
if your
Yeah.
team isn't acting like a team, then it's really going to be hard for it to grow and succeed and really hit those heights. So yeah, my favorite piece of advice that I've ever heard from the man Gary V is to
Mm.
learn how to fire people. And it's makes sense. You're not always going to be right about who you hire. You can't take pride in like, oh, I hire all the best people. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes you don't. And even if they're good at their
Yeah.
job, sometimes actually, I think what he's going for is, even if they're extremely skilled in their field, at what point are you willing to have them take over and dominate and bring all this negativity into your workplace? And how,
Yeah.
where is that cross point of, oh, that is worth the rest of my employees being unhappy, is because, oh, production is up, right? Sounds like the whole, like the same thing that you're trying to do as far as not having investors be involved with your company, because now you're going to be driven towards their goals and their wants, and typically just raising profit, which isn't necessarily correlating with happiness. It's just
Yeah.
trying to hit a new high score in numbers.
Exactly. Yeah. And with investors comes usually a board of directors that people hire, and sometimes it's warranted, but in some cases, as a CEO, the board of directors can vote to fire you. So with a lot of companies, the CEO always has to go to the board of directors, has to go to their investors and say, "Hey, is it okay to do this? Is it okay to say this?" We've seen recently with Elon Musk, just sending out a tweet can can damage his relationship with them.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and the stock price can plummet
yeah,
or blow off to the moon. And his Joe Rogan appearance obviously changes things. But that's why I love doing a podcast like this. It's just be who you are. And I think
right.
that's why the Tesla stock has raised so much, not just due to the great things that they're doing. I personally think it was overvalued, might even still be overvalued based off of what the company is actually doing. But props to Elon for
Yeah,
being such a celebrity and really just a pop icon, to where the stock is so popular. It was like gone to like what, 6-7 times its worth in just this year alone. That's insane. For something
yeah,
where it's not like they're dropping news and new inventions all the time. It's the same stuff, and stuff that they've talked about like a long time. But now people are just so
Mhm.
aware of the company and they're so hyped about it because of who he is and how he's just like
Yeah.
he's just on Twitter all the time. He's on Joe Rogan. There are Elon Musk memes out there. There's gifs. It's like
Yeah.
it's crazy. He's like just so like in your everyday.
Right. Yeah, he's brought the company from brink of closure to what it's become today, and he's not afraid to say what he believes. Sometimes I don't always agree, but yeah, you got to give it to him for being honest.
Yeah, I mean, we're never gonna have people win everybody over 100%, but as long as you're honest with who you are,
Right.
then I think
Yeah.
that's what people will respect at the end of the day, and it makes it a lot easier to agree to disagree when you're just upfront, just like, hey, this is who I am, and this is how it is, respectfully. So if you give respect, you'll get respect back. Same
Exactly.
thing. That
Yeah.
energy goes around no matter how you put it out. It's gonna come back to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so with both of these projects that we talked about so far, kind of dialing it back, or I guess kind of involving both, I'd say, is when it comes to developing an app, I've never created an app myself, so I don't know anything about this. What typically takes the most time as far as putting it together? Is it the actual programming and the layout? Um, what is the most time consuming part or parts of
Mhm.
creating an app?
I think it varies, but some apps are software as a service based. Some apps like mine are platform as a service. So where app will make money through subscription service. So without content, it wouldn't have anything. So the, the biggest part is having all the content there. Um, the hardest part probably is technologies like AI, incorporating that. Um, the backends, I call the backend part of the app, which is the data, the servers,
Mm-hmm.
that typically takes a bit longer um, than the front ends. Um, this app, I'm trying to release it fairly quickly with it still being quality, which is very possible because the way I want to build it is as a progressive web app they call. So you don't actually have to download it in the App Store, whether you use Google Play or have an app on iPhone. You go to your web browser and you can connect. You can get it directly to your homepage. You can use the app without being on Wi-Fi or having an internet connection. You can be offline with it. So it's a little bit more lightweight. Um, Typically, apps that have over a certain amount of um, storage tend to take a bit longer, and then the upkeep of it too is maintaining it. That's also hard, but yeah, typically an app takes about 4 to 6 months to build. Um, but once I finish compiling all the content together, which I want to still do while I'm building the app because there's just so much to put in there. Um, I think the build itself is going to be, to me at least, is going to be easier to get
Mm.
done. Yeah.
So what has been the most time consuming, say, like for best? Is it more so the content itself, or is it the team building? Was it I imagine in different phases, some things have been more demanding than others, but as far as your personal experience with your health app,
Mhm.
what has demanded most of your time?
Um, Still, it's been the content. The app has gone through phases. In the beginning, it was just a meal plan, and then when I realized I wanted to incorporate initially 10 different meal plans that each have 10 to 18 different options within them. That's when I oh man, this is going to be big. Um, I think later on it's going to be the social aspects. I didn't really get into that earlier, but what I want to do is allow content creators from nutritionists to personal trainers to strength and conditioning coaches to yoga teachers, people in the wellness space and in the beauty space and so on. I want to give them a platform to build their own brands through the app and give them a good amount of money doing it as a side job. So I think that may end up being the most difficult. But yeah, right now I'm using different apps. I've been building partnerships with people and seeing if I can get them to maybe use the beta version of the app and put their content out there on the app.
Yeah, that's cool. There's some people that I follow on TikTok, really just for recipes and even just to watch, see if I don't end up making stuff. I just like seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen like those videos of just dudes in the forest making food, and it's just like, you know, kind of ASMR, just listening to the fire crackle while they're cutting stuff up. Then they have like the more like fast-paced ones where it's just like, hey, this is how you can make this quick little meal with, you know, this many ingredients and it's all healthy. And then one of my favorites is Binging with Babish, who started on YouTube. Yes. And so for those of you who don't know, Binging with Babish is basically a series where this guy, he actually makes food that's from TV shows. Like he'll make the Krabby Patty and he'll try and do it, you know, exactly how they describe it in the show. But then he'll also do his own take. And it looks so delicious every time he does it. He's a self-trained, and now I see him in commercials. He's doing like a Maker's Mark commercial, I think on Hulu or wherever it was. So I'm like, man, Binging with Babish is just like, he's out there now. So it'd be super cool to see like the next Binging with Babish that come on to your platform or come out of your platform. That'd be super cool. And that's interesting too, to add the social aspect. I think it definitely engages people a whole lot more. Like I have a heart rate monitor that I use, and there is a social aspect to where you can like or comment people's workouts. You can add photos to your workout too, so people can see like what you did or where you were. And honestly, I underestimated that part, and it's cool to see how many people really get into it, even though it's not primarily a social app. It just, once you add that community to it and that personal touch where people can interact, it just kind of goes off.
I think with like the biggest apps that people use to get their content out there, sometimes it's hard for them because there's just so much content, like with YouTube, with Instagram. There's so many other different avenues that it's hard for them to really get their audience because it's not as specific. So I want to kind of take some of the audience from Instagram, YouTube, and take those creators and give them a bigger platform, a more specific platform to promote their products. And I know everyone who joins will be doing it to help people and not just make money, but to help people in the process. So combined, I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be super cool. I definitely look forward to using that whenever that's ready. Hopefully sometime next summer, it sounds like. And that sounds like maybe the time we'll be able to go outside again.
Oh my gosh, I hope.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the vaccines are underway. Let's just cross our fingers that they work well, and if they're not good enough, that we'll get something better. But I can only hope for the best in this situation. But sweet, man. Let's move on. If you don't mind, I'm really interested to hear about your political party. What do you have a name for it quite yet?
Yeah, it's the name is going to be based off a new form of governing of government that I want to kind of incorporate and hopefully implement one day. Definitely won't be. It's probably the hardest thing I ever try to do. But the name is going to be called triocracy. The political system is going to be called triocracy. It's and then the political party is going to be called the Triocratic Party. So Trey from the word three. I want to kind of change the way the different forms of government connect with one another and work together.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that all parts of our government should work together, that they shouldn't just be on their own team and only care about their own team? You're saying that maybe if this new party, along with the two major ones, come together, that maybe they'll do some good for the greater good of the people? Sounds like a radical idea to me, sir. It's almost as if that's what our government was founded to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have three forms. We have the federal government, we have state government, we have local. But as I've seen and as I've researched and really learned about it, especially the local and state governments, they don't work together well. I think the way laws are passed, the way laws are reformed, um, the way people in the community work together and vote is become really difficult. And I think there needs to be kind of a restructuring, so to say. Um, and not to say that there isn't good things with how our government is, but to really go back to the founding fathers, and through what I've researched and found is they didn't intend for the government we have today to remain the same government. They thought it would change. They thought the Constitution would change.
What tradition? Tradition, sir.
Right. Yeah. That's the argument. So yeah, with that creating more of a moderate platform, um, where you're doing it for the greater good. You're voting for the best possible options, the things that are actually going to really help. Um, not just you're not doing it just for money as a career as a politician, but you're doing it to help people and to give them the best quality of life possible.
You mean
So,
so to for these politicians to be an actual politician?
yeah,
The
and that's
original
part of it. And that's
intention
become
of
a
a
big,
politician?
yeah, right. That it's not just a career, that you're a civil servant. I like to call it I don't like using the word politician. I like to use the word vessel. I'm a vessel for the people. I'm speaking through them because this is what they want to do, and this is what they know is the best option for them and their loved ones and the people around them to to to, to live their best life.
Absolutely. I mean,
So
our system is so problematic. The two-party system, especially. I mean, even the term saying everything is black or white is problematic, or red or blue. It's like, why does it have to be one division? I understand it for categorizing things; it makes sense. But this separation isn't really good. It's called the United States, not the divided states, right?
right,
And so it's at a point where it's so silly now, where it's like you have to. Oh yeah, I'm voting all red. I'm voting all blue. I'm like, but you don't agree with all these things. But yeah, but it's my team. It's like,
yeah,
I'm like, if the Lakers have a shitty roster, they don't deserve to win that year. You know what I mean? It's like, as much as I want them to win, it's like, well, yeah, this other team did better. You know, you just got to hand it to them if they have something good going in the right direction.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think one, not just bipartisanship, but tripartisanship, um, including a third party. I've said this a lot, especially this year, will not only bring new ideas, right, and potentially a middle ground idea, but it will force the other two to have to adapt, right, to where I think may even encourage all of them to be a little bit more moderate, right, or even more radical in some senses, depending on the issue, right? Because now it's not just this or that. It's not, pro or anti. It's going to be like, oh well, there's a middle part, there's a middle ground, or there's like a kind of this way, kind of that way, or maybe two parties will be more moderate, or two parties will be more on this side, and then you have one that's further on the other side. And so I think that's what we need, right? It can't all just be, oh, one or
Yeah,
the other, one or the other. It's like, if you're not with me, you're against me. It's like, well, we all live in the same country. How about we work together? And I remember when I was taught in school, it's like, my majority vote and minority rule. Like, you got to help, you still got to give something to the people who aren't, in the majority.
exactly. Yeah, and going back to what you were saying, our two-party system, that's the biggest adversary to having a third party that's successful. I mean, we have the Independent Party, the Green Party, even other parties that weren't, to most people, weren't great, but lost traction and just completely disappeared because of the two-party system that we have, the electoral process. So I think my biggest avenue of actually successfully creating a party that doesn't end up fizzling out, and isn't scrutinized by the media is using Congress, is to have a large enough base of political candidates from the party who end up joining Congress. So the goal is, from now until 2040, the next 20 years, is to build a large enough base where there's enough political candidates within all 50 states to run for Congress and to get a seat in Congress, and hopefully the goal is to hold a majority seat in Congress. I think that's really the only way, because there have been parties during our presidential elections who've come close, mostly the Independent and Green Party over the last 20 years, but because of the two-party electoral system, they've just never had a chance, never stood a chance. So I think it's a big task ahead to create something that's big, but I think using what I've learned in advertising and marketing, and not just political science, but using those skills to really grow the popularity of this party. And kind of how you touched before, we're, like I said, we're for the people. We want to be honest, which it's hard to be honest with a politician. A lot of people don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and a lot of it has to do with the money. A lot of politicians support certain laws, support certain provisions because of money. They're given favors, and I think the other part is the lobbyist industry.
Right, and that's like
a lot of lobbyists who write our laws.
Yeah, and like a business, you need money in order to come up with advertising and marketing, a budget for that. And if you don't have it, you gotta find a way to create that. And so typically those businesses and those lobbyists, they're like, hey, if you do this for us, then maybe you'll see a check in your mail pretty soon. And so it's tough because it's like, hey, well, I need a check, I need to market my stuff, and I need to get out there. And so it's a tough system. You have to work against that, all the lobbying. You have to work against the meandering, and then just the fear. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Not just the fear from people, but the fear from other politicians that really want to be part of this, right? And other, like, especially if you can get the celebrities into it, because
right, yeah, exactly.
It's insane how heated people get over politics. You can be a different religion, have a different diet. You could be, so many other different things. But for some reason, when it gets to politics, it's just a whole nother deal. And people are willing to be cutthroat with their family members and their lifelong best friends and end relationships, right, over a disagreement. And I think it's like, you can disagree and still be friends, man. I think that's what the whole political system is supposed to be, is like, hey, look, we want this, but it's like, oh, well, we actually want this. And the whole process is to figure out, how do we make everyone happy, right? Or what is the more ethical thing to do? And it's, part of it is understanding communication, and not everyone comprehends things the same way, and not everyone will communicate, similar thoughts the same way. And, there just needs to be a lot more empathy. So I hope that's something that will come out of a third party, is once you can conquer all the basically organized crime and that goes on within it, and just it's crooked. It's a crooked system, not just our system. Pretty much every government out there, there's severe flaws, and ultimately it's the people that pay for it, quite literally and emotionally and mentally in every single way. And so it's tough, man. I admire this. It's a hard thing to do, especially when you know that it doesn't take that long for it to fizzle out. But just like a business, in any other venture in life, I think if you just keep hustling and try to improve, put out better version, hit some updates, then it could definitely, become something huge like a Netflix or, Facebook, or obviously whatever movement, maybe a veganism. It's getting out there. Not everyone was about being vegetarian 20 years ago. Vegetarian thing was kind of okay, it's normal. Then the vegan thing is like, oh, vegan, come on, what is this? And then now it's like, oh, all right, you're vegan. Like, it's a little bit more normal, And so
Exactly.
I think time will really be the biggest test for you and society at this one.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you said, it's going to take a lot. It takes a lot of money to run for office, especially say president. How much money was put into our candidates over the last decade to run for office and secure a seat? Billions of dollars. And that's why I want to use the money that I make from my companies over the next 20 years to fund. And as grandiose as this sounds, 2040, around there, I do want to run for president of the United States. So
you heard it here first, folks. No, that's awesome, man. You're an ambitious person in every way, it seems like. But the one thing I do like about you is that you do, at least from this conversation, seem to be for the people and their well-being physically and mentally, and then also for the well-being of the planet and really just everybody. Are we still there?
Can't do it alone.
Oh, there we are. There we are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely can't do it alone. It's going to take a lot of people, a lot of support. But I think it's going to become the norm in building community, in a sense. Like everything I do, all the companies I want to work on, connected, they're all about bringing people together to creating better ideas, more sustainable ideas through consensus. Like you said, not everyone agrees, not everyone has the same opinions, but that doesn't mean that we can't come up with a shared agreed opinion.
Yeah, dude, I'm all about this. I really hope this takes off. And man, if I mean, I'm working on some things myself, so hopefully I can toss some money towards this moderate party. I think it's exactly what we need as Americans, is just some disruption in a good way, and really just breaking the mold of what our political system is right now. So as long as your head seems to stay on straight, and you still seem to be for the people and the well-being of pretty much everyone, then I'm all for this, man. Whether you're in the majority or not, I think it's going to be extremely healthy for everyone at the end of the day, whether it's, financial, mental, cultural. I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And yeah, I hope it'll just kind of open some minds.
I hope so too. Yeah. I look forward to it. As long as my first app is released sometime this summer, I want to start going out in public and doing public talks and speeches around fall this coming year. I have a 10-point platform that I want to promote. 5 points, people would say it's goes to the left, and 5 of those points go to the right. So.
Oh, I love that already. Yeah. I love that because it's the middle. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Or even if it's just the corner, I'd rather have corners than sides. I'd much rather have corners than sides. So that way people have to, really do their research, and they're not going to feel, obligated. Well, it's like, well, I like this other thing that this party has. So even though I'm not really pro this, at least I'm pro that. And if they get to win, then I kind of get that thing. And
Yeah.
it's tough. It's a sticky situation for sure. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to add? I think this is a wonderful place to stop, and I definitely would love to have you on in the future to get some updates. Especially that'd be probably a good one to have before you release your app.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But anything else you want to add into this one for today?
I don't have any websites at the moment, but I'd say for Best. I'm trying to buy the domain right now, best.co. We'll see how much that's going to cost. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Stefano Salvatore Soro. Don't really have much content. I don't have much time to put content, but I will definitely be keeping up with that.
Is that GoFundMe up already, or is that coming soon?
No, I'm gonna release it about a month before the app is released.
Okay. Okay.
Before the betas, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sweet. So, like I said, please just stay on the call for now, and then we'll just kind of wrap up and figure out how I can get you out there and exposed outside the podcast. So, alrighty, folks. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we will see you next time. And thank you, Stefano, for coming on the show one last time as well.
Oh, no problem. Appreciate having me. It's been an honor.
It's been awesome. All right. I'm going to end this thing in 3, 2, and done. Alrighty, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if you want to become a supporter of the show, please just follow the link in the Linktree/Christian Blandin. You'll see it in the description. You can just click on podcast, Completely Candid Christian Blandin, hit the support button, and you could help the show out so we can see it grow even faster this year. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. If you want to find out more about Stefano Soro, go ahead, hit that description as well. I've got all his stuff in there. Until next time, folks, thank you, and bye-bye.